Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai Stock Market Live streams. We have a great list of topics to go through today and a big week ahead in the markets. A lot of stocks are making big moves already today. The QQQ and the SPY are in the red. The Dow and the Russell are in the green. Are we starting to see a little mean reversion happening where the QQQ has performed so well and the small cap Russell and Dow have kind of lagged? Are we seeing that switch happen before our eyes? We just might be. We will get into that throughout the stream. As everybody is entering, please hit that like button if you're watching on X or YouTube. We love having you guys here. And as always, feel free to leave us any comments, questions about stocks, macro, AI, business, anything. We are happy to answer. But let me take you all through actually, before I take you through the topics, let's look at net option sentiment for SPY and QQQ as we start here today, so we could get a look now, and we'll check back in later when we do the model portfolio update at the end of the stream. So the QQQ is currently at 13 and the SPY is at 0. So combined scores of 13 between the SPY and QQQ, a lot lower than we have been at in most recent weeks and days, especially for the QQQ, which is now looking quite bearish in its net options sentiment level. I wonder if this is due to Jackson Hole happening later this week. If you're not aware of what Jackson Hole is, George will talk all about it, but the Fed Chairman Jerome Powell will be speaking to a lot of important people, and it has the potential to definitely shake up the markets or boost the markets one way or the other. We'll ask George which way he thinks it will go, and maybe if that's why we're seeing net option sentiment drop ahead of it. Also discussing a bit about the geopolitics going on of Putin and Trump meeting, and if there is an end to that war, what could that mean for the market? Or is it already priced in? How convinced is the market that this will happen? Some of those details we will go over. And then a stock we've been talking about way more than I ever thought we would be on any of these streams is UNH. Another big update for it last week that has sent the shares much higher. So Buffett, Tepper, and Burry all bought the dip in UNH. So after this has been announced, we've seen the stock rise. Now there seems to be a level of confidence and certainty in the markets that maybe the floor has been set. How is George feeling about it at this stage? And we have another healthcare stock we're going to talk about, Novo Nordisk. They made updates to their Ozempic and Wegovy drugs. So I'll take you guys through all of that. But checking back in on the healthcare sector, which if you are a regular viewer of these streams, you know George is not the biggest fan of in recent times. But he did add UNH and ELV in the model portfolio. So excuse me, in the investing portfolio. So is it time switching, and is healthcare bottoming and looking more attractive at these levels currently? A quote from Sam Altman we'll bring up on the stream today, because he is the last person you'd ever expect to hear that we are in an AI bubble, but that is what's floating around now. I'll read the whole quote when we enter into this topic, but we've talked about, is Palantir overvalued? Is some of these AI growth expectations overvalued? Now Sam Altman, the CEO and leader of OpenAI, is saying it. So maybe it truly is at this stage, but we'll talk about that all when we get there. Another stock, Opendoor, is climbing today. This one is very volatile, so let's make sure it's still up as of now. It was the leader of the current phase of the meme stocks that we are in. Yes, Opendoor is up 11% now, but they were up as much as 23% today. So they were the leader of the short squeeze stocks back in mid to late July, but now they're rising again, and a lot of people are starting to mention how there could be a fundamental play behind why these shares should continue to climb. Anthony Pompliano is leading the charge. Another, I forgot to check, but I want to give him his due. Eric, I think Johnson or Jackson is, yes, Eric Jackson is another investor who is leading the charge in the open door stock thesis. So now that we're seeing it climb and we're seeing this continued attraction to the stock, should you be interested in it? Whether you're going long or short, because it's at a very pivotal level right now. So we'll talk about open door later on. Google buying 14% of a company named TerraWolf, which has caused TerraWolf to jump nearly 100% in just under a week. So it has meant the world to that stock. If you're not familiar with TerraWolf, they are a Bitcoin miner. But I'm going to ask George, why is Google so interested in acquiring some of this company with a 14% stake? And then a lot of Bitcoin mining stocks have not performed well, even though Bitcoin has climbed. One of the ones that has done the best of the bunch and has looked good in our signals, Iron. But a lot have not, like CLSK, CleanSpark, Riot, and Mara haven't done great. So does this show that there's meat on the bone with those companies? And if Google's investing in TerraWolf, that Riot and Mara are deserving of higher prices for their stocks? And is it attractive for them? And then after TerraWolf, ticker WULF, has made such a big move, is it attractive at this stage, or is Google going to flip their purchase? Okay, and then one more topic we will go through today. We have one of the last, probably the last busy week of earnings ahead for this quarter. I'll take you through the full list of companies that will try to get to most of them on the stream. We have Palo Alto, Home Depot, Nebius, TJX, Lowe's, Target, Estee Lauder, Baidu, and Walmart and Alibaba. So the themes of this week are basically the major retailers and the China stocks. The China stocks have looked pretty decent in our signals, but they are, always have their concerns. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream. So it'll be interesting to talk about them later on. And then the big retailers with the current, obviously, tariff kerfuffle and everything that's going on, inflation. It'll be an interesting tell to see those earnings come out throughout this week. But let's take a look at the markets one more time before we begin here. QQQ, SPY in the red, Dow, Russell in the green, and the VIX is slightly up today. We peaked at QQQ and SPY net option sentiment in the Prospero app, George, and SPY's at 0, QQQ at 13. So pretty low levels as we begin the week here. Are you the most bearish or fearful or conservative that you've been in since we've seen this bull rally from the April lows?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think you have to take, more than anything, you have to take the QQQ net option sentiment lower as a very serious thing. Because, a lot of people were kind of being like, when they diverged and QQQ was as high as like 50 or 60 and SPY was still pretty low, people were like, well, why is the market going down? Well, it's like, well, it's not always that simple. And that's why we emphasize both SPY and QQQ. QQQ's been really healthy for a while. The fact that it's in bear territory, I think is very scary, because you can look at SPY net option sentiment being low and QQQ not being low as just hedging the market, right? But when they're both low, you really have to look at that as people are an increasing number of people are starting to bet on the down direction.
And we'll discuss some of the possible triggers of why people would be fearful here. So we have two events that I think are weighing on markets right now. So we had Putin and Trump meeting towards the end of last week, and nothing has really been announced from it. How do you think the market's reacting to that event? Do you think they were hoping for an update as to okay, we're getting really close to the end of this war? Would that be a very bullish thing for the market, or is it not really affecting the market as much as at this point?
I think I think what happens with these events, and for better or worse, I'm not saying if this is the way it should be, but I think for better or worse, the headline wears off unless there's something new. Like if there was some kind of big escalation in the war, in that conflict, I think, that would be viewed as a pretty bearish thing. But you just don't see the market reacting that much to that war anymore. And I think it kind of like the headlines wear off, people move on to other things. The market's been so bullish. I mean, I think maybe it could have been a bigger signal, before this big run, but I don't think it ending would really, like, officially ending would rally the market. And then you have to say, like, okay, even if there's some kind of peace, you don't know if that, Putin's not really the kind of guy that really respects agreements. And I could see, a peace being like, some kind of move to, later escalate. So yeah, I'm not feeling like that matters that much unless we see an escalation.
And so the other thing I wanted to discuss was Jackson Hole. So for some of the newer market participants or people who haven't heard us discuss this, because I think every year it's happened, we've talked about it on the streams, but I mean, it does happen every year. But maybe just give a little background of like what Jackson Hole is for some of the people who maybe are unaware, and then how this can drive the market going forward. Because I'm seeing a lot of people bring this up as a possible bearish event this year if the Fed is a bit more hawkish after we got some more hot inflation data recently, the Fed rate cutting path being questioned. So can you give a little background? And then people are talking about it as possibly bearish. Do you think is that how you would lean heading into it?
I mean, let's see. Would I lean bear? Like, I'm not sure I would lean bearish quite yet. I mean, because look at it this way. I would think, like, especially you talked about PPI, core inflation was 3.1%, which made me very nervous. And the market didn't seem to care about that. So, I mean, I don't know. The market is kind of, I think, reacting as if, Powell might be losing power, even if he's even if he's not officially fired. I think that's kind of the bigger trend that I'm seeing, because there are concerning things. We wrote about, like, the leading economic indicator diverging from the market, and if you look at the chart that we shared, you almost never see it that much of a divergence. Like, we're really setting up, like, we've been talking about a correction, but it looks like we could be setting up for a big move down now, and that definitely makes us nervous. And it certainly doesn't help. I think the market has been pricing in rate cuts for a bit now, but it hasn't been pricing in stickier inflation. I think we've been mainly pricing in the bull case, and I think the stickier inflation is a scary thing.
So you mentioned how, like, the market could be setting up for a bigger move. What would be the trigger of that? And then if that were to happen, some of these high-flying AI stocks like Palantir and NVIDIA, I think, would have to be kind of the leaders to the downside. So what scenario could you see where that plays out, where we do get this big pullback?
I mean, I think a stock like NVIDIA is in less trouble. I mean, I think any tech stock's in trouble, but I think one that's gone so far away from what you might call like a traditional valuation. We think traditional valuations are, we've talked about them being out the window. But I mean, I think you can agree that Palantir has departed from the value of its current results and has begun to trade on the future. And like all this stuff that's done really well, like quantum, maybe even like, the flying cars, all of that stuff, I think is in biggest jeopardy from getting hit if there's a big correction. NVIDIA, I think will get hit, but it does have a better, like, economic base to support it. But, all tech would get hit in a correction. I'm just more worried about those stocks that have really rallied in value.
So I think you hit on it with the quantum, I think the nuclear stocks, and you're right, the flying cars like Joby and them. So are you saying you would not be investing in them currently, or you'd be selling your shares in them, or just at the first sign of weakness, you'd be getting out of those first?
I mean, we're talking about stop losses a lot, right? I think trailing, I think it's rational to have a trailing stop loss or a stop loss. I mean, everybody kind of sees what I do. I would rather start adding more shorts than selling my high conviction longs. Like I always want to keep some high conviction longs. Like, but I will say right now, my higher conviction longs are value longs, like UNH, ELV, Lulu, Charter. Like those are all like that's 4 of my 7 longs, and those are more value longs. And that's where I see more upside right now. I see more upside in value, just because value is doing well on bull days, and I think it will do well on bear days too, relative to the other ones. That's why I've tilted my portfolio that way.
So you brought up UNH, and that's one of the stocks I want to talk about. But I think this is an important time to like stop and make a mental note that like for months and months and basically all of 2025, it has been growth in AI. And I feel like this is the first time you've even considered like value as more attractive. And I think that's just something to keep in mind. And it's the beginning of like possibly a switch maybe in how the market's going to trade over the next weeks and months. But UNH, so we've been talking about it so much on the streams. Obviously, the stock has had a crazy past 12 months. It came out last week that Buffett, Tepper, Burry, basically all of the powerhouses of Wall Street saw it as attractive and began to make positions in it. I saw it in our newsletter yesterday. We added it. So if you're just adding it now, that must mean you think there's still upside to come. And even though it's bounced off those crazy lows of like $230 all the way up to like 310 or wherever it's at today, there's still value and momentum and potential left in this trade to you?
Well, I think that's the key, right? We always look for momentum. And I think there's momentum in value right now. And I think there's more, there's kind of more juice in this trade. Like, one of the things that makes us, when we look at, we said we have like a quick trigger or something with something like Palantir, and we got out when that option sentiment had gone down and it's in a bit of a slump, right? So it looks like we were led in the right direction on that. But, the nice thing about prioritizing momentum is, sometimes you can get a lot of value in momentum, right? I actually see, the nice thing about UNH and playing the momentum in it, right, is I'm confident with all these long-term holders. If the stock price even goes down from here, I do think there's going to be a lot of people buying up those shares because they already saw it at a value at their entry pretty close to here. And then I think you start to see more people, like us making practical, that look for more momentum, making practical choices around this, being like, look, all these stocks at their all-time highs, we see this stock that, a lot of the people on Wall Street agree has value. And, we're, that's where we want to be. And we did load up on ELV too, right? Elvance is another insurer, right? And you might say, isn't that concentration? Or I might counter by saying, well, it's concentration in something that looks like a lot of people are saying was devalued too far. And that's a safe place for them to put their new dollars with more uncertainty in the market. And you just have to be willing, you have to be willing to do that. This is not our typical portfolio, 2 healthcare insurers, a consumer brand that's been hit pretty hard like Lululemon, but it became obvious in momentum score. And then something like Charter. I think I've seen Charter more in the bear picks than the bull. So when I see its signals turn around, because I've seen it in the bear picks, I'm like, whoa, there must have been a big change in institutional perspective on this. And yeah, there might be options bets on these stocks now because people see these as the more likely stocks to go up with safer downside protection.
Now, follow-up question on this trade, and I don't know, maybe you would even call it just a trade, because I don't know if you want to be in UNH, Elvance, and Lululemon like long-term, but that just the current dynamics of the market like have them looking attractive. But we talked about a while ago how the Russell rallies would always fade because, these algos would the Russell would be lagging and be looking attractive, but then the second it rallies, all of those mathematical equations get rewritten, and all of a sudden it doesn't look as attractive because of the rally. It's kind of like it kills the momentum itself. Do you think some of these stocks that have low PEs, like as those PEs creep up from the teens to the 20s to maybe the 30s, like these rallies are going to be short-lived in these names because of that fact, where it's just like Well, they have a cap because they are rallying because of value, and that value will go away if they keep going up.
Well, I'm not sure if yes, some of it is the relative value and how some people perceive short-term picks right now, or short small cap ones right now. But what I will say about the whole thing and what I'm seeing is the last few times I've seen like this doesn't. Last year there was actually a nice small cap rally, so I don't want to go back that far. But this year, in kind of looking at small caps, what I've noticed is that it tends to be after there's this huge bull run and a lot of the large caps, a lot of like things have become overvalued, and then people kind of come in at the end and start like pushing up these small caps, and we've seen that. So I think that might be the bigger problem, that when we see small caps rally, and I'm going to keep this in mind, that might be a bigger sign that we're getting close to the end of a rally than anything, because people are basically saying, okay, these large cap AI plays, whatever, they might be getting overvalued. Maybe we need to start putting, our extra dollars in these small caps that could move more, but maybe that's just a sign when the large caps are losing momentum. Now those are making up a bigger and bigger part of like the market as a whole. Right. So as those start losing momentum, maybe the market starts losing momentum, and then, the small cap rally doesn't last very long.
I feel like that's a really good observation, and I feel like I've seen that too and noticed that. But one of those small cap stocks that I wanted to talk about today, because they are climbing again, is Opendoor. Let's take a live look. This stock is so volatile, it can swing a lot very quickly. So currently, Opendoor is up 8% today. At the peak, it was up almost 24%. So some of that rally being faded. But so Opendoor seems to be the leader of this phase of the meme stocks. How like GameStop was in round one. Opendoor seems to have that position in whatever round we're in. But now people are starting to continue to be interested in the company and saying that there might be a fundamental play more so than just like the meme nature of it. And Eric Jackson is a big Twitter account who continues to be bullish on the name. Anthony Pompliano, more of a crypto person, but has got into Opendoor now. Are you interested in this stock at all? And yeah, just what are your thoughts on like, this seems to be more than just a meme, short squeeze rally at this point.
I mean, the first thing I'm going to say about this is it's pretty much the cliche of any of these short squeezes that when the short squeeze argument evaporates or loses luster, the next step is it's a fundamental play now. You still have people saying that AMC is a fundamental play now. I know I bring that up all the time, but that's just the one that's like in my face the most because I'm still like in touch with some of those people. So yeah, Opendoor, you have people saying that, but I will say that even though that's the cliche, I just looked, upside is 77. Profitability is a little low at 27. Don't love that, but growth is 65. It's not a bad stock long term. And I think that's probably why you have the most people, going. It's got a real business, right? And I think that's different than you see with a lot of these other meme stocks, like even GameStop. We made fun of the idea that their best idea was buying Bitcoin, right? Opendoor is a real business, and I think that's why it might have staying power, and it might be something that could be great. But when I see a stock like this, and I should heed my own warning on it in terms of when to get involved. I'm kind of just like looking at it, right? And you see, and I'll look at a chart like this, and we saw it go down to 184, actually 184, 185, right? So I look at something like this and I say it's at like 340 right now. And I say like, well, now that I do know that this has got meme stock attention, right? It does seem to have support, maybe even $2. Like that's the kind of thing that I would say, okay, if I see it go back in that $2 range, signals still look good, I could add it then. But you always have to be mindful of these ranges, right? it kind of topped out last time at it got up to 490. There was another day it got up to 389 that day after. Today it topped out at 390, right? So this is something that we don't do this a lot because it's more trading, and I know people think that we trade, but more often than what we're just doing is we're trying to get into the best long and short-term stocks, and sometimes we'll exit quickly if we think the thesis has changed. But I don't think that's a bad way to look at Open Door if you're following it. I think you could say, all right, as it gets closer to 4, maybe I don't like it. As it gets closer to 2, maybe I want to play these waves because there's definitely the buying support at $2, and it keeps squeezing. I don't think it's going anywhere. So it could be an interesting play for people on that basis, because I do think it has enough of the groundswell.
Question from Yitzi on YouTube asking about UNH. We kind of covered it in detail, but maybe if you just want to quickly give your 2 cents, George, for Yitzi.
Yeah, and I think to describe it differently, because to situate what I've said in the past, right? Which is that even as much as last week, 2 weeks ago, I was too risky based on the headlines, right? So what changed, right? Risk is relative. It was too risky 2 weeks ago when I said I've got Palantir at 100 upside, close to 100 net option sentiment. I've got AMD close to that level. I got Robinhood close to that level. All of a sudden, you look down, those stocks aren't nearly as strong in the signals. All of a sudden, you have UNH looking there. I also heard the rumors that there might be, Buffett, some big people might be buying UNH. I saw it look better in the signals. And that's really what changed. I actually view UNH as a similar level of risk that I did 2 weeks ago. It wouldn't make much sense for me not to. What happened? A lot of the other stuff that I favored at that time has become riskier, and the risk reward has moved up on UNH. So I like it for that reason. I think it's hard to pick longs right now. That I like a lot of the longs I look at, I'm just I like it from a year from now, but in the next month or two, I could see it losing 20 or 30%. I don't feel that way about UNH. I think that a headline could cause it to lose that much, but the others don't actually even need that I'm naming. I don't think you even need a headline to go down 20 or 30%. I think that's an imminent risk. So that's why I favor it now, because I think all of these stocks, are set up to look good in a year. I think UNH has the better short-term story because it got beat up while these other stocks were doing well. That gives it more potential. And I also just think that if the market is in more of a downswing, a headline could cause even bigger problems for UNH. But I think the flip side is, if you did want to announce some of this healthcare stuff, I don't think, I think we saw what had happened. It was announced kind of when the market was healthier. I think if the market's in falling again, I don't see as much of a reason to pile onto that.
And we have Nareej Kashik saying, where can I follow the model portfolio, in the chat? I believe they should be able to get it through our website, right? The link is in our description right now.
Well, the investing portfolio is free to access. The model portfolio is part of the trading letter, and that's once you pay for the trading letter, you can request access, and I give people access to it.
So Nareej, if you're interested in that, you got to email George@Prospero.ai, correct?
Yep. And yeah, if you email me, I can get you a discount code to try it or something. We can chat about that.
Ooh, there we go. And Topher is asking about NVO, which is Novo Nordisk, which we were going to bring up today already, because they made some updates to Ozempic and Wegovy. Wegovy has now expanded to treat liver diseases as well, so more use cases. Ozempic, they are now offering, instead of locking people in, you can do monthly payments of $499. It was funny when they were talking about this on CNBC. They were saying like, if you have a family reunion in 2 months and you just want to lose a little bit of weight, people, it could be tempting for people. But Novo is another one of those stocks that has just been absolutely pummeled over the past 18 months ish.
Yeah, wow.
Very similar to like UNH and wrapped up in that whole healthcare underperformance. How are you feeling about them at this current state?
I see it like I see them like topping out a bit here, but I feel like adding them. Um, I'm like looking at this, how low they are in the weekly chart. They're like almost at the bottom there. Like I'm talking. I mean, I don't. I mean, they're only 69 at option sentiment, or I mean, social looks good, technical looks good, but like yeah, like I just like their chart. Um, their chart looks really good. I gotta say, I'm having myself think about it, and like on the weekly, they look like they've really bottomed out. It's a nice looking chart on the weekly, and
Something
with
that
some news,
has, what was that?
like I'm definitely gonna think about adding them.
So something that I feel like has been weighing on their stock is the competition they get from compounding, basically like knockoffs using the compounds of their drug. Like I think Hims is a huge um, competitor for them. Do you think, because a lot of people like Hims and I see them mentioned a ton on social media, do you think both of these stocks can win, or do you think one will have to, you know, outcompete the other and there's only room for one, or is there enough for both of these players in that space?
I mean, I think there's plenty of. I think there's room for plenty of people in that space. I think that's part of the reason they got hit. I think the regulations are a little concerning. Some of the stuff about the prices they can charge is probably wrapped up in that. But yeah, I think there's plenty of room for a lot to make money. I'm kind of talking myself into adding them. I mean, I think everybody's a little threatened. Like I know Hims prices are a little threatened by like Amazon right now. So maybe that's the other thing. If Amazon is doing all this stuff, maybe all these people are screwed. But I'm thinking about, I mean, NVO, like in just taking a quick look at it, like it looks like it's going down a little right now, but it looks like something that you could take on a nice ride for the next like couple weeks. No problem. Or maybe like a week. I don't know, but it looks attractive right now. And I'm just like, hey, in for a penny, in for a pound. Is that the expression? I might just keep going in on this healthcare.
Well,
I'm looking. We might have a live ad here.
this was going to be my follow-up, because like you've already added UNH and ELV, and now you're even the fact that you're interested in NVO. Do you think like Q3 we could see healthcare being the number one performing sector of the market, since it has lagged so much? And then if that's the case, like how much healthcare in a portfolio is too much? Like how much concentration would you be willing to go to? And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think concentration is just a function of conviction, right? It really does. Like some of this stuff it looks like a lot of this stuff is like UNH, ELV. You know, those were both really elevated in the signals. Yeah, UNH is the top of the short-term bulls right now. Lululemon's there. There's like bit of a changing of the guard. Wait, what's CNC? Is that healthcare too?
Yeah, that's another like healthcare insurer, I believe.
You know, look at Centinga.
Another one that's popular is Oscar, which is also up today.
Yeah.
So it's,
see, like I like you don't have to look very far to look. Oh, look what's back. CELH making a comeback. But no, when I see that, look, UNH is number one. Eli Lilly is number two in our picks. Then you have like CNC there, so 3 healthcare on this. Now I'm saying, do I add Eli Lilly or NVO?
What about some of those more growthy healthcare stocks like what is it called? Wait, let me find it. CRISPR or any of those type of companies, would they be
I
interesting?
mean, I'm looking at this weekly chart on NVO, and it's just like, I'm normally not a chart person, but this looks like it's about to shoot up.
Fascinating that we've been talking about so much healthcare on the stream today, and it seems like the whole theme of the stream is kind of like the changing of what's leading the markets from AI to maybe taking a break. And fascinating enough, I think Sam Altman is on board with that idea, because he came out with a quote, and it was something you never expect the leader of the biggest AI company or the leader of the space to say, but this is his quote. So, are we in a phase where investors as a whole are overexcited about AI? My opinion is yes. Is AI the most important thing to happen in a very long time? My opinion is also yes. So, why would Sam Altman even come out and say this? What motive or incentive does he have in saying that publicly?
I don't know. The only thing that comes to mind is I've been reading that like these Harvard and MIT kids and things like that, they're actually leaving. They're dropping out of school because they're worried that like AGI is going to take like they're worried if by the time they graduate there's going to be AGI and they wouldn't have done anything about it. Maybe Sam Altman's on that train too. He wants to. He's a little concerned about what he's created, and he wants to start backpedaling a little bit and making it seem like, oh, maybe AI is not doing that well, and we're at a bit of a slowdown or anything. That way, you'd be like, oh, I'm so surprised. I thought we were slowing down when this AGI thing came about. No, I mean, I don't trust Sam Altman at all. I mean,
I get that feeling too from Sam Altman. Like I don't know what's happening recently, but he's been doing like too many podcasts. Like I'm telling you, he releases like 5 a week, to the point where it's like, why are you releasing so many podcasts? But then the other thing, so the one thesis I had for him saying this is, we've seen talent from OpenAI get stolen. Maybe he's saying that so it looks foolish for Meta to be spending this much money and other companies to be spending this much money, and maybe he's trying to position it that way. I don't know, so it doesn't look as bad that they're losing talent.
I think Meta was down today and I think some people were pointing to that. Damn, I should have done. I was thinking about putting Dropbox in the portfolio today, and I didn't. The shorts. Yeah, I mean it's very hard. Like I would always assume that Sam Altman's doing, some gamesmanship thing. Like a lot of his senior leadership has left. Like, I mean, it's pretty dishonest what he did at a high level with the nonprofit, then turning it into that. So yeah, I think Sam Altman's always got an angle.
Well said. And I don't want to miss out on this Topher comment. He's asking about GDRX.
Is that like look? GoodRx? That
yes.
I mean, like right there, like net option sentiment looks to be in a terrible trend. And yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple here. That's definitely a business that could get eaten by Amazon. Like we were talking about with the other ones, and like, having your own drugs, things like that. Maybe even Amazon still has to sell them. I don't think Amazon's going to be like making drugs anytime soon. But yeah, I think GoodRx is in trouble.
We have Claire coming into the comments on YouTube and asking about UNH stock. And it's funny, you can see how we've been talking about how the trends of the market are shifting. You can tell by our comments, like what stocks are being asked about. And UNH again.
I mean, UNH is at the top of our picks. I'd say it's still a buy.
Mm-hmm. So I want to cover this story about Google acquiring 14% of a small Bitcoin mining company called TeraWulf that has led the stock to jumping nearly 100% in a week. So two aspects of the story that I'm curious about your opinion on. So Iron has been a Bitcoin mining stock that has looked good in our signals and has performed pretty well over the past year. But a lot of these stocks have not gone up with the amount that Bitcoin has gone up. Some being like Riot, Mara, CLSK. Do you think this investment by Google in Wolf creates more meat on the bone for those stocks? And do you think they potentially could rally or look attractive by maybe another mega cap company investing in them, or just from their value with their shareholders? And then on the other side of it, from Google's, why would Google be interested in this Bitcoin mining company? What do you possibly think Google has in store or planned with this investment?
I think everybody's got to be thinking about how they're making a Bitcoin, cryptocurrency play, anything like that. I mean, I think it's going to become a bigger and bigger aspect of things. And I think Google's always looking to make interesting acquisitions. I think they might have something planned for it that we don't know. I know Google Cloud has really been trying to reach out to like the Web3 space. I've been to some Google Cloud Web3 conferences. So exactly what they're planning, or maybe it's just like a wise acquisition. They think it's smart, and we are seeing more attention, especially to the eco version ones. So yeah, I think it's definitely smart. I think Iron is something I have been thinking about. Should I just grab it and hold it for the long term? I don't think that's a bad idea, especially if we see like I'd love to look at a chart for that. By the way, we did just add NVO, and it looks to be pretty good thus far. But I wanted to take a look at the Iron chart, because that's something that if I see it's really just, I mean, we really should have just held it when we did. What did we exit it at? Oh yeah, we exited at 15. We wouldn't have been up that much, but yeah, we probably could have held for longer. That was a good long-term pick. But no, I mean, this is a definite trend, and I think overall people should be considering like long-term investments in that, because I think even in a bear market, crypto mining would be doing very well. I mean, relative to other things, maybe not very well overall.
So TerraWolf, to mine their Bitcoin, they use, like you were saying, eco-friendly energy like nuclear, hydro, and solar. Do you think Google is more interested in getting access to that energy or the crypto, or it's a combination of both and they just are interested in both aspects of it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think that's a good prod there. Like, I think where I was like, yeah, maybe it's a good acquisition, maybe just the energy, because whether it's mining or the mining, you basically need servers, and maybe it's just about server efficiency. Maybe they want to build out more Google Cloud servers using that tech. I think that probably makes I think you probably poked at the right thing. That makes more sense.
Well, I am curious because I feel like we have seen a lack of embracement amongst the big companies of crypto still, and it's like the government has embraced it. A lot of individual investors have embraced it now. I mean, I guess Nvidia is involved a lot just because they sell the chips and stuff that the stuff is mined on. But can you see any of these companies, any of the Mag 7, making a big leap into that space? And what's holding them back at this point from doing so?
What is holding them back? I don't know. I mean, I think they are, like, I think a lot of these places are building. I mean, in terms of crypto, I mean, a lot of people are talking about stable coins. Like, what's holding them back? It's not like their business, right? Like it's like we talk about with GameStop, right? You don't necessarily want to journey too far away from your business. Like, to your point, like Nvidia selling the chips, figuring out server farms, all that stuff makes sense. But it's not a good sign, no matter how big a growth another business is, for you to necessarily be putting a lot of your attention into that business. The idea as a business is better how to grow your own business than necessarily involving yourself in another one.
So we have one more topic today, but it is going through a lot of the earnings players this week, so it should take a decent amount of time. But let me just say, for everybody that's been watching the stream, we crossed 2,000 already, which is great to see. Thank you all for coming today. Like it up if you're watching on X or YouTube. If you've enjoyed the topic so far, subscribe and hit those follow buttons. So this is probably the last week of major earnings to discuss. It's pretty busy, and the major themes are the big retail players and then also some China stocks. But I'll just run through a list right now, and then we could get into talking about some of them. So, and this is in chronological order, so starting from Monday going to Thursday. So Palo Alto, Home Depot, Nebius, TJX, Lowe's, Target, Estee Lauder, Baidu, Walmart, Alibaba. So we have, okay, we could talk about these in probably 3 segments. So Palo Alto and Nebius, I believe cybersecurity and an AI player. I would imagine with all the things we've discussed about on the stream, those might be like one of the less interested you'd be in. Would that be correct? Or
Yeah, definitely.
so then we have a lot of the retail players, TJX, Lowe's, Home Depot, Target, Walmart. I don't know if we want to look at them in Prospero right now, try to see which one is looking the best and the worst. But interesting spot because a lot of those companies have, I feel like, not performed great, and they have the risk of tariffs and inflation. So I don't know. You're not too fond of the AI player, but how do you feel about these retail companies too?
I mean, I think retail, like when you look at something like Lululemon that we got in, I think that we're basically seeing some value get created there. Not all value, like, Alibaba, like, is one of the names there, and I'm a little nervous about that because of ongoing. I always get nervous about China. I'm nervous about like ongoing tariff things. I was actually just looking at seeing if we could punch in like the whisper number, what we've done so well in on predicting. Oh, here it is. I'm pulling it up. I think that'll be interesting. Like, because I don't know off the top of my head what the main drivers of Alibaba's revenue is, how they're thinking about, like, the big thing is like how much of tariffs already impacted, right? If the idea is like we're worried about how they'll impact versus, they've already impacted, pretty well, and they're going to start pulling back. I think that's big.
Baba and Baidu have continued to look pretty decent in our signals, and the stocks have gone on runs, but they're kind of faded. Do you think that's going to continue happening in these companies since they have that, the extra layer of risks of being China companies? Or do you think at some point we will see like sustained rallies in these companies, and maybe they'll reach new all-time highs, or just be able to have a sustained bullish market in these stocks?
I don't think so. Like, China stocks are always a big difference, and we talk about that as in, they're difficult to get accurate numbers on, or with the numbers you're getting, you don't know if they're accurate. The Chinese government, covers up a lot. And then you also have, just overall market health. And I mean, I think if people are starting to get nervous about inflation, of all things, especially with rates still being pretty elevated, I think that could definitely concern Alibaba, tariffs excluded, if people get more concerned that consumer spending might get strained. So yeah, I think it's a tough time for all of these things with everything rallying so much. And one of the reasons I do like Alibaba is it's still a bit off of its high. And I think there could be value there. And it especially because it tends not to trade at a very high, multiple relative to other companies that have, like, it's got an AI play. It's got a lot of things just beyond being a consumer cyclical brand. But there's still, I think, just high level concerns with anything in China. And then anything that even touches consumer cyclical, I'm still a little, worried about until we actually show that we're, I think, more on top of inflation than this past reading, certainly.
So the last company on the list to highlight, Estee Lauder. Let me pull them up, because the only reason we're talking about this company is because Burry had 100% of his portfolio in this company
Oh
at one
yeah.
point, and they have done very well since that was announced. Year to date, they're up 20%, but from their April low, they have nearly doubled. So obviously, we've seen Burry bought UNH, so he's not still 100% in Estee Lauder. After this rally that kind of, I think, was fueled by the fact that Burry is such a big name, do you think there's a risk in this stock for pulling back now at this point after the easy gains have been had, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you see a name like that and Michael Burry in it, like I don't think he's like that excited about the growth of the business or anything like that. I think he sees a value and he expects it to, recover and get his profit. And I mean, I think he's probably seen a lot of that. So yeah, I think it's probably late on that. He's clearly moved on to other things.
So that's all the topics I had in store for today. We could take a look at the markets overall and the net option sentiment here before we do the model portfolio. So the QQQ, SPY are still in the red. The Dow is actually completely flat right now, and the Russell is still the only indice in the green. We could check the net option sentiment here.
All right, I'm making the switch.
All right. So we'll catch up with George on the other side, everybody. Oh, we got a comment on Twitter. I think it's a really nice development. Seems like a helpful session for investors. It creates a hopeful vibe for the future. From Ozgon Babaglu.
What in particular there? I'd be curious. I don't think we're being all that hopeful. But hey, maybe the sector switching, we're giving people some new ideas. All right, I'll be right back.
All right. So everybody stick with us. George will be right back in the stream in the Prospero.ai laboratory. Let me look at QQQ and SPY net option sentiment. One more time, let me just ask everybody to hit those like buttons if you're watching on Twitter or YouTube. YouTube, we're struggling today. We got to hit double-digit likes on the stream. We had a couple streams hit 20 recently, so thank you for all the support. But today, we're still under 10. So everybody, smash those like buttons. I will also help you guys out, giving it a like on the Prospero account. But without further ado, let me give you guys the QQQ net option sentiment, which is at 8 now, and SPY is at 1. So now both net option sentiments are in single digits. Definitely something to be watchful of and probably proactive in making moves in a portfolio. But we'll see how George decides to manage and maneuver today. I would imagine it's going to be a lot of switches happening with the net option sentiment pulling back that low. So, but we will have to wait and see. Let's see how the actual overall market, because even though some of the indices are red, they're not too red. So we will see what's going on with the Mag 7. Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, all in the red. Tesla is in the green. Meta is the most down on the day, 2.5%. The rest are within about 0.5% to 1%. Let's check on NVIDIA. NVIDIA is green as well. So a little bit of mixed in the mega caps. Let's check out Bitcoin. Bitcoin is currently at 116,000. It'll be interesting to see if we do get a pullback in the AI and tech space, if Bitcoin is going down as much as the others, as we've seen it kind of trades like a growth tech stock. But now with the institutional backing, we'll see if that continues to be true or not. Let's take a look at the leaders for the short-term bullet list picks, which is the list you pop into when you first open the Prospero app. I wonder how many tech companies are going to be on there today. So right now, UNH, Eli Lilly, Lululemon, Spotify, CNC, NVIDIA, Adobe, Meta, Google, CELH. So maybe that is something to keep in mind. The tech stocks that are able to maintain strong signals, even if we do get into a period where tech underperforms or pulls back. There are some that are still on the short-term bull list for now. It is very interesting with multiple healthcare stocks on that list also.
Yeah,
George,
we're really loaded up now.
We're now in single digits for QQQ and SPY. We have 8 for QQQ and 1 for SPY.
Wow.
Just got a comment from David on Twitter. Hello, new to Prospero. If I get access to model portfolio, does it track changes in net option sentiment, upside, downside, etc.? Would be nice to see how these change with underlying price movements.
The signals are still, the best place is in the app, but when we roll out our alerts product, that's when you'll start to see more live looks at what our favorite moves are. It's challenging. The app is the best way to deliver the most current signals, and you have some time series stuff in there. It's challenging to do better than that. That's really what the app was created for, to have a live look. The portfolios are just, that's our take at any given time, what the right signals are.
The screener in the app is also a good way to see, which is updated, I think, daily, what stocks are looking good in the current market environment that's going on that day, whether it be bullish or bearish.
Yep. We'll probably do, since we did it last week, we'll do another screener update. But let me share my screen. All right, you said 8 and 0 or 8 and 1?
8 and 1, yes, 8 and 1.
Sorry, someone's at my door. I'll be right back.
I think Uber Eats has arrived. So we have a lot of people in here. So I'm forgetting if I mentioned what we're doing now, but George is making live changes to the portfolio, so you get to watch for free. So that's why you got to stick around to the end of the live streams.
Kelly, I'm live.
Don't you know I'm live on YouTube and Twitter?
Yeah, I had to get up and let her in. Okay. I think we did put this in already because we did it first. Maybe not. All right.
We have increased our healthcare position already on the bull side. We will look for communications and perhaps real estate on the bear side.
Okay, let's That's going. All right, so 40. Okay, now we definitely need to do some chopping. Yeah, for those wondering if UNH is still in play, I'd say that's a pretty good sign. I did this too soon, but oh, I forgot. We wanted to also do something else. Do we take another UNH position? No, probably not, because we just took.
Bob commented, I think UNH is a buy. I trade UNHG because it's a leverage 2 times and only 17.5 per share.
Oh yeah, we do have 2 UNH already. We definitely need to add more shorts. Oops. Before we do that, we need to do this. Give it some time. Right. Do we do I think we got to do a bear screener. Everything's so low.
Ori said, I hate to see these scanners. I think Ori has talked a lot about Palantir. So maybe from him listening to our stream, he's now feeling great.
I mean, we had you out of Palantir at the right time, I think. When we got out, it was good timing. All right, now we can go back to this. We are multitasking. All right. All right, all four of these look good. Oh yeah, Zillow, we're definitely. I think we might have to clean this up a little bit, but. I mean, that's a good.
Ori said, George, you were right on Palantir.
Well, I mean, a little. There's still plenty of time. It hasn't been down that much, but I'd say the signals are right. Oh, there we go. CFLT. That's a nice little growth stock. Wow, there's a lot. All right. Do we take a flyer on that too? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think, not today. Vion, that's actually looking pretty. All right, we're going to do that. Let's look at SSB and FFA. I feel like we're always shorting FFI. We always find ourselves in there. Looks like it's in a good trend too. ALE. Okay, I like that. What about Q? What's going on with Beyond? Why is that consumer defensive? No, that's way too low. I think we missed the boat on that. What about INGR? No, okay, we're not doing any of those, but we are going to look at this. Has the screener been updated? Let's see. The first bear screener in a while, everyone. Scary. But what's going on with CTLP? Cantaloupe. Let's take a look at some of these after we. That looks good. That looks good. All right, let's take a look at a few of these names. I mean, RHI we already have. T. KMT looks interesting. Is canted, but too small. FactSet could be interesting. Okay, that's done. All right, I think. Oh, I was like, I think we've done everything we set out to do. Not quite. Boy, those two are low. It might be time to dump them. What's going on with Baba? Is Baba a win right now? Oh, it dipped, but then it's back up. All right, that's tough. All right, not going to make a move with that yet. Love is not a win. CCK. Oh yeah, CCK has really moved. All right, let's get it out. What do we like on the short side? What is AGO?
Ori said some big whales started to short Palantir, and Bob said Baba reports earnings this week. We discussed.
Yeah, I'm thinking about getting out of Baba. Is Baba also a win? I want to get out of that one as a win. No, but it's getting close. Might want to get out of ELB soon. We'll keep our eye on it. I definitely want to get out of CCK. AGO looks like a good opportunity. A little diversity. Yeah, upside went off a cliff. I don't know what's going on with AGO, but it looks good. We are going to drop. Maybe we won't do that right this second. CCK looks like it might be heading back down. All right. Unless we have any other questions, I think I am not making any other moves.
I don't see any more in the chat, but we are close to hitting 2,400, just under. So a lot of viewers today. Thank you, everybody. I hope everyone enjoyed the stream. Thank you, George. I think this was a very interesting stream because we're kind of changing what's happening in the market, I feel like, for the first time in a while. So everybody's got to tune back in Wednesday, and we'll see if it's still occurring. But see you all then. Thank you. Thank you, George.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.